Y hoy en el canal tenemos a otro gran insider de Giants y vamos a hablar de Giants Football.
Hola, soy Madeline Burke de los New York Giants. Estás escuchando a Zona Gigantes.
Will Hernández. Will, bienvenido a Zona Gigantes.
Y nuestro invitado de lujo para hoy, lo mejor lo dejamos para el final, es Coach Alonso, de Don Raúl Alegre. Bienvenido de nuevo a Zona Gigantes. Tenemos a Joe Fan. Welcome to Zona Gigantes.
Tenemos a Joe Ruback, más conocido como Listen Spade Guy, LPG.
Pues hoy en Zona Gigantes volvemos a tener a un campeón de Super Bowl.
En esta vez es Brandon London.
Y es nada más y nada menos que Sebas M. Christensen. Sebas, bienvenido a Zona Gigantes, un placer que te pases con nosotros. Y es nada más y nada menos que Jerry Foley, es el creador de la revista Giants Insider. Jerry, welcome to Zona Gigantes. Muy buenas, queridos Giants fans. Hoy es un día enorme después de esa firma de Daniel Jones. Yo soy Rubén, podéis seguir aquí abajo como Rubén F. Vargas. Y hoy tengo una gran ilusión de traer a un gran profesional de la ESPN. Pero antes, acuérdate, darle al botón de subscribe, campanita, comenta, que nos ayuda muchísimo para seguir creciendo. Y hoy nos acompaña en el canal un grande entre grandes. Nos acompaña desde ESPN, Jordan Raanan. Jordan, ¿cómo estamos?
Necesito trabajo mi español, huh? I don't know if we're gonna make it through this at that pace.
Okay, let's do some Spanglish, Jordan, then.
That's my language right there.
Well, Jordan, we met twice last season. It was amazing to meet you in person. I mean, I love the atmosphere with all you guys, with all the insiders. But
you
tell me,
here are all our inside jokes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the food was great also. This pizza penne vodka, I cannot forget it. But Jordan, tell me, what is the secret to have all these nice ambience always, good jokes with the other ones? I see a nice bound around the insiders of the Giants.
Look, we're just trying to keep ourselves busy and you know, preoccupied, have a good time. You know, I always like to try and remember we're covering football for a living, right? Like American football. Like this is what we do. Like there's worse things to do. It's not super serious. We're not curing cancer. We're not in politics. This isn't hard news. This is supposed to be fun. And I think we do. We have fun. We joke around. We joke about players, like just like everyone else does when they're at home watching the game. So trust me, Ruben, it was necessary the previous, 5-8 years to keep our own sanity, to have that, joking light nature in the media room, because to be honest with you, you go in and you're losing and you have to start going into the locker room and ask guys why. Why do you suck is essentially what you're asking them a lot of times when they know they're bad. They know the team is bad, and then it's like, I'm sorry, man, but why do you suck? So many words.
We started to watch the light in the end of the tunnel, no, with these Giants right now.
Yeah, they're finally, it looks like they've turned the corner. I mean, Shane and Dable, obviously, Joe Shane, the general manager, did a really good job of slapping together a roster when he didn't have a lot of resources. Brian Dable was coach of the year. That speaks volumes for what he did. Him and Mike Kafka did a tremendous job. Shea Tierney, the quarterback, because, I mean, look what they did with Daniel Jones. And now, like, if we had spoken at this point last year, you were down and negative on the Giants quarterback situation. They're screwed until they get a quarterback. Daniel Jones had just missed the final 6 games of the previous season with a neck injury. And, the season was a total disaster in the first place. So you just feel so much better about the direction of the team right now. And it's mainly because of those 3 guys.
Jordan, you are every week on the building. I mean, I was with you there, but you can feel it, no? A little bit on the building, that the things are changing, the atmosphere, the decisions. You expected in the summer that it's gonna be like this all nice atmosphere and good feeling on East Rutherford?
Ruben, it's always good in the summer when you're undefeated. Every team is undefeated. Every team feels good. Every team feels good in the spring. Unless there's like a big controversial situation going on. But I've seen it over and over. These Giant teams that I knew weren't very good, they're in the spring, everybody's happy, everyone feels good. And it's why I like to say the only culture that matters, I believe, is a winning culture. It cures all problems. Anything that goes wrong, you don't even remember. Do we even remember the fact that the Giants had 10 men on the field and gave up touchdowns on multiple occasions? No, you don't, because they won. You know, if those things happened and you were losing, they'd be magnified even more. Like, that's the way it works. Now, I do think culture is important in that you have to be able to sustain the downtimes, because every season in every sport, you know, it's up and down. So there's going to be low points. You just have to make sure that everybody stays together, and you don't have, like, you know, people feeling alienated and jump off the ship and get off the bandwagon when things go poorly. And that's why you need quality characters in it. Look, every locker room has, and I'm quoting a source of mine that said at one point, every locker room has shit bags, right? And so your job is just being able to sustain that and make sure that there are enough people around them to make sure that they're willing to go along with what you need to do in order to be successful. And I think that's probably true in every sport. There's selfish guys, there's bad guys, there's great guys. There's a mix of everything in probably every single locker room. And you just need enough strong characters and strong leaders that, you know, it doesn't completely go off the rails at times.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones looks like a quarterback that can take the pressure of New York. It's probably one of the best things that he have. But what we talk about news because the big news of yesterday. But what do you think that make this regime, these Giants, to put all the money on Daniel and think he's my man? I didn't select this player, and he's gonna be our player for the next 4 years in the franchise.
I just think, and we've seen it now with every regime. Trust me, if I went back and I talked to Pat Shermer and said, would you invest in Daniel Jones and bet on Daniel Jones, he would move forward with him, he would say yes. If I found Joe Judge and asked him the same thing, as long as he's healthy, Joe Judge would have said yes. Jason Garrett would have said yes. Freddie Kitchens would have, all these guys. And the new regime thinks the same. When you're around him, you see the way he works. You see how he handles all the pressure of New York. He has the skill set. He was the 6th overall pick in the draft. And I know a lot of people want to knock that and say he shouldn't have been this. Fine. He was a first-round pick kind of talent. I think that's the talent that he has. Look at his athleticism. He's huge. When you're next to him, you stand next to him, you realize how big a guy he is. I mean, I played golf with him once. I mean, he's smashing the ball like 330 yards. I mean, that's like professional golf type distance. I mean, he's huge. So there's just so many characteristics to like, and that if you put the right people around him, I think everybody believes you can succeed. And we saw this year, he won over another regime in 1 year that, quite frankly, had serious concerns about him coming in and were preparing for the alternative of needing to find a new quarterback. But he won them over just like he did the other 2 previous regimes. There's a lot to like with the guy. And he balled out this year. I mean, I know a lot of people like to pick. He only had 15 touchdown passes. Look, if you go watch their games, he played really well.
That's true. Yeah, I remember when I was in London covering the game and the trainings, when I saw Daniel first time, I said, oh my God, this guy is so tall. It's really like big guy.
And big. He's 230 pounds, man. He's a big dude. He stands next to us. He makes us look like, we're little people.
That's true. Jordan, why you didn't come to London? You have to say to the ESPN come next time because we had so much fun there.
Well, the problem was the way we operate is we only send one of the 2 team reporters overseas.
Okay.
And
Packers.
So the Packers guy had never gone.
Okay.
I was there previously with the Giants in 2016. So I really stood no chance in that one. So, well, we got to get, maybe we can get Germany.
Jordan, maybe Spain on 2020. Yeah.
Ruben, I've never been to Spain.
So,
I've been to Italy. I've been to France. I've been a lot of places in Europe. I've been to the Middle East. Never been to Spain. It's on my list.
You have to take the kids and the wife to Barcelona once. I will be your tour guide.
Fine, I'm in. Deal.
Okay. Jordan, important. How you became insider of the Giants? How you came all this passion to cover a team like the New York Giants, a big franchise? But you start in the high school. You start when you since a kid. It's your dream job. How you became the insider of ESPN for the New York Football Giants?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know. I went to college, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But the only thing I did know that I wanted to do was be involved in sports. I was always big in sports. My best sport, actually, as a player, was probably soccer. I played in high school. I could have gone and played in college, but I wanted to go have a good time instead.
I live 3 streets from the Camp Nou, so if you want to come a Barca game, let me know.
I'm in for that, for sure. My daughter actually would love that, too.
She plays football, no?
She does.
Nice.
Now I'm invested in her 12-year-old soccer team.
Well, she plays soccer. Sorry, we are talking with you.
Right. Well, we don't want to get confused here because we're talking football and football, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Jordan, also with the new contract of Daniel Jones, Saquon is going to become unrestricted franchise tag. So the other teams can make an offer to him. You just report on your tweet that they're going to be having new negotiations the next days.
No other team's making an offer, though.
Yeah, that looks like this.
That's not the way it works. Nobody's giving up 2 first-round picks.
That's true.
For a running back at any point. So he's basically either coming back to the Giants on the franchise tag or they'll sign him to a long-term deal. And look, he's in a bad spot right now. He doesn't have the leverage. He either plays for $10.1 million for 1 year or comes along and signs a long-term deal. And if you're a running back and you're entering your 6th season and you've had a history of some injuries, you don't want to play on a 1-year deal.
That's true.
Provide you no security. You could tear your knee and you'll never get a decent contract again. Like, that's the reality. It's a tough position. It's a tough position to get paid. And I heard they weren't really that far off. Like, I think within the next week before the start of free agency, we're probably going to hear about a long-term deal for Saquon Barkley.
So the free agency starts on Sunday. You're saying that next week, in the middle of the free agency, they're going to try to get a new contract to him?
Well, you really don't need to do it till you're allowed to sign guys. So what is that, Wednesday?
Okay. Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday. So really I think it's noon on Wednesday Eastern time. That's when you have to have all your finances set up.
Okay.
Right? And then that's when that's like New Year's Eve for the NFL. Considered the first day of the league year. So that's when you kind of would like to have it. But to be honest with you, they're not dying for the few $1 million they would save on the salary cap right now. They could do it any time in the next few weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised. So, they're not pressed for time. Like Daniel Jones, they had to get done by the deadline because then otherwise Saquon would have been free to hit the open market, which then would have made his price go up. Right? So that was on the deadline. This isn't really on the deadline. The Giants can do this at any point, really, in the next few months if they wanted to. They're not like, we don't need that money on the salary cap right now. Like, they don't need it at all, to be honest with you. They could get by if they didn't have it. So
let's see, Jordan. Let's see gonna be the new contract for Saquon. Also, we saw today Joe Shane saying that he's not gonna splash the free agency for small players. He's gonna take like big names, maybe on defense, in attack. What do you see the free agency from the standpoint of the general manager of the New York Football Giants?
I think he's made it pretty clear through his comments since he came here that his goal is to sort of supplement the roster with like a couple bigger free agents every year and then build through the draft. So, and then, obviously he wants to do things like add defensive line depth. You might see a receiving tight end added to the group. I wouldn't be surprised without that at all. Wide receiver, middle linebacker are the 2 positions, if you ask me, to watch where they could make the biggest splash or get, the biggest known guys, name guys. So I think that's the route that this team is likely to travel at this point. But aside from that, he really does want to build this team through the draft. They're going to be a very young team. Think about it. They're young. Now, their big free agents last year were Tyrod Taylor, because they desperately needed a backup quarterback, and Mark Lewinsky. So not really big names, not really big money in the grand scheme of things. But that was because they didn't have the money. They didn't have the finances. So now he does. He has a lot more money available to him. I don't know exact number at this point because Daniel Jones and Saquon are on the cap.
50 or 60, no, around?
Yeah, but remember, it was 50. Now they signed Jones. That's, 18 and a half. So about 50 minus, and then Saquon's 10 at the moment. So 50 minus 28.5.
Okay.
So they're at like 22.5, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, you can
Or
see
21.5.
nice two free agents with 22 millions around.
Well, yeah, it doesn't work that cleanly, but you need some
Yeah.
money. You need to have some money for the draft class a little
That's
bit.
true.
But I mean, these are complicated things. They have plenty of money to sign players, though. Trust me. They'll have money to go out there and make a few significant signings, and then really fill out the roster with depth is what he's looking to do. He's brought up, adding defensive line depth as if it's like one of his top priorities this offseason.
Jordan, with all these movements of the Giants, you saw the Giants in like 2 or 3 years being a contender for win the Super Bowl, to make something big on the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the goal. I mean, let's see how they fill out the roster. You have to get a little bit lucky. They're going to have to hit some big draft picks somewhere along the line. Let's see what Kayvon Thibodeau turns into. Like, he looks like he could be at least a good player. They probably need him to be a high-end player and have that real dominant style pass rusher, unless Azeez Ojulari's that guy. I mean, there's people in the Giants who think Azeez is the better pass rusher. So, yeah, they're going to need some things to work in their favor. This year, it's hard to imagine they're like Super Bowl contenders. I don't see that. It's probably like another 2 to 3 years, I think, before, if they make the right moves, you could say, okay, this is a team that's ready to compete seriously for a Super Bowl. And that's the goal. That always should have been the goal. The new regime takes over, like year 3 is kind of like, okay, you can really flip everything around and get everything in order. And also, a lot of it depends on whether they made the right decision on Daniel Jones. They need him to keep going in the right direction. They bet on him in this deal. They're betting that with the right players around him, he can be a perennial top 10 quarterback. Like, he played good this year, but they're betting that, hey, we think if we put the right players around him, give him better weapons, give him better receivers, you're going to see him take it to an even different level going forward.
Jordan, talking about receivers and constructing the team, do you see the Giants going the first round on the draft for a receiver, for a cornerback? What do you think is going to be the target on this pick 25?
Yeah, I think those are two of the prime spots in the way the draft seems to play out. There's a lot of talent at those positions. I think cornerback, you named it, is a sneaky chance, because if you think about it, first of all, their number one cornerback is Adoree Jackson. He's probably better off as a number 2. Aside from that, Adoree Jackson's been injury prone his whole career. He's had a ton of injuries. He was injured again last year, and he's in the last year of his deal. The likelihood he's back the following year are who knows? I mean, it's probably pretty slim. So now you're like, well, what's their future at cornerback? So it's a huge need. It's a tough position to fill. The draft is the place where you really want to fill it with cornerbacks, like high-end, super talented guys. That's where you get it. So I think a first-round cornerback is actually more likely than people realize. Of course, receiver is possible too. I'm not sure if there's a huge gap a lot of times between first and second-round receivers. So I think they do have options there, because we're talking bottom end of the first round too. Remember that. We're not talking like top 10. There's no Jamar Chase sitting there for the Giants, or Justin Jefferson was a second round pick, or actually Justin Jefferson was a mid first round pick. But still, I mean, there's been a lot of good second round receivers in recent years. And the Giants hope they have one. By the way, they took Wan'Dale Robinson in that range last year.
Perfect, Jordan. Jordan, I made this question to Pat Leonard. He came twice to the show. What is the hardest part to be an insider in the NFL? Because, for example, with Golladay, with all these signs that they are like for a few days, you have to be with the phone, a lot of time spending looking what is going to happen, your sources. But for you, what is the hardest part to be an insider of the NFL?
I think it's collecting and maintaining sources. I mean, it's hard, especially when we're talking about the Giants situation and where they've been. Every 2 years, they bring in a new coach, new regime. I mean, you have to go it's starting over. You're starting from the ground floor. This isn't like, oh, wait, the New England Patriots have Bill Belichick for their and on some of the same people for 15 years. No. You can easily be restarting and starting all over and be like, oh my God, all the work I just put in for the last 2 years to build this
It's about
relationship
contact and relations, no?
is out the door. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I always tell people this is a relationship business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that goes for players too. And players are always changing also. So, man, it's hard. It was even harder when you weren't in the locker room. So you weren't talking to a lot of players on top of everything else. And they're switching and changing up the regime. I mean, it was a problem. So it was definitely a lot, but I mean, that's what it is. And I think this holds true for most industries, to be honest with you, that relationships are what matters. As long as you have those relationships and you work hard, and that seems like such a simple thing, like work hard. Yeah, of course, everybody works hard. Well, no, not everybody works hard. Like if you're around in this job and my job, if you're around and you're omnipresent and you're always there, I feel like stuff just falls into your lap. Like if you're just around enough and paying attention, there's enough going on where you can do well. And so that to me is a big key. Now it's a little harder, like you said, when you're 24/7, you have a family, you have kids. Like a younger me was like always around. Now it's a little bit harder. I have to prioritize things. Like, is it really worth me driving an hour to a charity event or go to my daughter's football game, as you call it?
Soccer game, yeah.
We're going back and forth. You're confusing me here.
Jordan, what is your favorite moment on all these years covering the Giants? This moment that is you're gonna remember all your life, and it's always like in your memories.
I mean, I wasn't there for any huge Super Bowl or.
No, it doesn't matter.
This was the first playoff win. So to be honest with you, the best moment to just be able to say I was there, that I saw that, was the Odell Beckham catch, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like, you were sitting there and you were just like, whoa, holy cow. And then I've never seen it with my own eyes. Somebody blow up and become so famous so quickly. Like, I remember after that happened, Odell got like phone calls from LeBron and Michael Jordan within days. Like, that's how quickly he went from like
he broke
really
internet.
Good rookie football player to like superstar. And it was quite to see. And that catch is still one of the best plays I've ever seen. Definitely the best play I've ever seen in person. Wow. I mean, it was unbelievable.
So Jordan, you make my next question. Thank you for that. Do you see Odell coming to the Giants the next offseason?
You know, I wouldn't completely rule it out. It's a need. It's not a great year for number one receivers. So
I remember I was in the building with you. I was going out from the office, but this day I was in the building when he came to talk with the Giants.
Oh, really?
You remember? No, it was in the Legacy Week. Yeah.
That was that week? Okay, that's right. Yeah. So I think it's possible. And because the fact that they might not be able to find a real number one receiver this year, that guy just might not be out there.
Okay.
Odell fits the mold of a guy that could, okay, let's try it. Let's see, maybe we can strike gold and hit something here. At least he has that potential to be a high-end receiver. Now, he's coming off 2 ACLs.
That's true.
He's older. It's a lot to ask for him to play at that level. And I'm not sure he can at this point. I mean, he still could be a good player, I think. But I don't know. It's going to come down to what's the price, and are the Giants willing to go there? I think the Giants might look at it as, all right, we'll take a flyer on him for the right price. The thing with Odell is, hey, if somebody pays me, he's that's going to hold a lot more weight than the sentimentality of New York.
And then Jordan, next question: what's your best friend on the business? This person that you always like happy to see and happy to say, hey, he's my man.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with Dan Graziano here because
the
Dan Graziano, he's on Get Up Now, was in my job before.
He's in the Fox Sports, now?
No, now he's still with ESPN.
Okay.
He does the get up in our mornings.
Okay.
He's an NFL reporter. He was in my job, and I became very friendly with him. And
Okay.
he actually helped me when he moved up the ladder get this job at ESPN. So I'm forever grateful. And whenever I see him, we always hang out. Like when we were at the
Nice.
combine, I roll with him very often. I mean, I have a bunch of other friends around the country. You become friends with a lot of these football writers. Jeff Howe at The Athletic is a great dude. That's one of my guys. Dave Burkett covers the Lions, is a good friend. So you become friendly. Todd Archer with the Cowboys. He's our ESPN guy. I mean, you see these people at certain events every year, and you become friendly with them. So, yeah, I mean, it's good camaraderie. And look, and when we're at ESPN, like we help each other. Like I call my Cowboys guy when I need to know something about the Cowboys. Our Cowboys guy Todd Archer reached out to me yesterday, and he said, "Hey, kind of, what's the deal with Barkley?" Because he's trying to see, all right, what are my team going to do, the Cowboys, with Tony Pollard, and so we can help each other out. And so we have a big network of people that can help each other out, and so there's a lot of people locally too. I mean, I'm friends with Pat Leonard and Dan.
Yeah,
Dudley.
he's
Those
amazing.
are the guys I hang out with on the road. Connor Hughes is someone I kind of mentored when he was younger, who's really good too, and now is a good friend of mine. So there's a lot of people. We have our own text chain with a bunch of Giants people, like the same jokes you hear in the media room we make on a text chain. So yeah.
Yeah, it was great to be there, man. You are not the first ESPN reporter to be here. We had Tapa Nava, is the Spanish Cowboys ESPN insider, one of the biggest in Spanish, and also Sebastian Christensen. He's one of the big ones in the ESPN in Spanish, because ESPN in Spanish is really big.
Yeah. Well, I'm big in ESPN Australia. They've asked me to do stuff a couple of times. I'm kidding about that, but yeah. they do ask us to do stuff for additional ESPNs once in a while. Like, can you do 30-second hit on for ESPN Australia or ESPN Spain or whatever it is?
Okay,
it's a huge place, man. It is. It's it's a place.
You go often to Connecticut, Jordan?
Since COVID, very, very rarely. Like maybe I would go up like 2 or 3 times a year pre-COVID, and now I think I've been up there once in like the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So Jordan,
we have New York studios too, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Jordan, it's been a pleasure to chat with you again. I hope to see you soon in New York or in Spain or in London, whatever. It's going to be for a nice reason for sure. But man, I had a blast, and I think all the Spanish listeners, they're going to love this interview. We're going to put subtitles, of course. Yeah. But man, thank you for coming to Zona Gigantes.
Yeah. Well, we love that you come out there and you come visit us, and that it's because it's a completely different perspective than we're used to, right? Like the Spanish fan base, or really any other country, it's interesting to see like the different perspectives that you guys have on the sport, or how you view it, or what you're looking at. So, so you, to make sure though, tell me when you're coming out though. All right.
Yeah, I will tell you, man. I hope soon. And the Giants have a nice Spanish radio team. They are like family to me. And I was in the big screen. I think you saw me there, like commenting the game with them, and it was amazing experience.
I did.
Jordan,
anytime, man.
Muchas gracias. Follow my man Jordan Raanan. He's breaking the news always. And let's go Giants. See ya.